My name is Clara Henry. I'm 28. 2 years ago, I stared at a laptop screen in a cramped New Orleans apartment and watched the word pass appear next to my Louisiana bar exam results. I called my parents, hoping for one word of pride. My mother told me she was too busy picking kitchen cabinet paint for my sister and hung up. That night, I cried into a glass of bourbon at a dive bar. I had no idea the bartender wiping the counter would end up more of a father to me than my own. Or that 2 years later, I'd be freezing my brother-in-law's real estate empire and watching my parents march into my law office to beg. I'd spent 3 years serving drinks on Bourbon Street until 2 a.m., studying by street lamp, surviving on red beans and tap water. When I finally passed the bar, I called home first. My mother, Patricia, answered clipped and irritated. My sister Chelsea was mid-meltdown over cabinet paint that looked cheap mustard instead of eggshell white for the house Chelsea's husband Travis was building. I passed the bar exam, I said. That's nice, Clara, my mother replied, already distracted. The painters are here. Tell me Sunday. Click. Chelsea had always been the son our family orbited, married to Travis, a smooth real estate developer with a Porsche and 100 country club connections. I had student debt. My father, Richard, called law school a foolish gamble and funneled every dollar of support toward Travis's ventures instead. I'd convinced myself that passing the bar would finally earn me an ounce of pride. It didn't. I closed my laptop and walked out into the humid night, away from the French Quarter noise, toward a flickering dive bar sign. The rusty pelicans smelled like whiskey and fried seafood. I sat at the bar, and the bartender, a broad-shouldered man named Remy with a trimmed silver beard, noticed the tear I tried to hide. When he asked what we were drinking to, something in me cracked. I just became a lawyer, I whispered, and no one cares. He didn't offer pity. He poured me an expensive bourbon on the house, disappeared to make a phone call, then came back with a plate of warm beignets. In New Orleans, we don't celebrate alone, he said. If your blood doesn't have the sense to see what you built, find people who do. Minutes later, the bar went quiet as a sharp, silver-haired woman in a tailored suit walked straight to me. It was Judge Evelyn Landry, a legend of the Orleans Parish Civil Courts, and the judge I'd interned for years earlier, silently organizing dusty dockets in a windowless storage room while other interns network at garden parties. She remembered me. Remy, it turned out, was her brother-in-law. Evelyn told me she led a coalition defending small, historic local businesses against predatory corporate developers buying up the city and squeezing legacy owners out. I need someone hungry, she said. She wrote an address and time on a cocktail napkin and slid it under my glass. Don't wait for people to build your table. Build your own. I traded bartending for 100-hour weeks at Evelyn's boutique litigation firm, fighting for bakery owners and jazz club proprietors being pushed out by shadowy holding companies. I threw every ounce of my rejection into the work. 6 months in, reviewing financial disclosures late one night for a case involving a French Quarter restaurant being forced into bankruptcy, I traced a tangle of shell companies back to their registered agent, Travis. My brother-in-law was the predatory developer. Digging further into the seed capital that had launched his company, I found a wire transfer of $500,000, originating from a private trust. I pulled the charter. It was an educational trust my late grandmother, Beatrice, had set up 12 years earlier, with a single named beneficiary, me. Its entire purpose was to cover my law school tuition debt-free. They'd told me my grandmother left nothing but jewelry. They'd watched me take out 6 figures in loans and work night shifts to survive, all while quietly spending my inheritance to fund my sister's mansion and my brother-in-law's real estate schemes. I didn't confront them. I locked the evidence in a fireproof safe and waited. A week later, A coalition of French Quarter business owners, bakeries, jazz clubs, antique shops, came to my firm begging for help against a hostile corporate buyout threatening to demolish their block for luxury condos. I took the case pro bono. When I opened the case file, the lead developer's name hit me like ice. Travis. And the demolition zone included the exact block housing the Rusty Pelican. I dug into his operation and confirmed my father wasn't just a passive backer. He was the primary silent investor, having poured his own money and my stolen trust fund into Travis's leveraged, fraudulent empire. I built a case around fabricated health code violations, backdated structural reports, and shell companies obscuring the funding trail, then filed an emergency injunction to freeze every asset tied to the project. The court granted it Monday morning. Millions in Travis's assets froze instantly. Construction stopped. Banks got nervous. The financial foundation propping up my family's lifestyle began to crack. 2 days later, my parents stormed into my office. My mother critiqued the artwork instead of noticing the multi-million-dollar practice her difficult daughter had built. My father slammed his hands on my desk, called me hysterical, and threatened to blacklist me from every courtroom in the parish if I didn't drop the injunction. I didn't flinch. I told him exactly what his son-in-law had actually done: fabricated violations, unregistered shell companies, federal wire fraud, and that his assets were frozen pending review. When he kept pushing, I slid a manila folder across the desk. The certified trust fund records. "I would not throw stones, Richard," I said. "Not when I have the bank records from Grandma Beatrice's trust." Within 48 hours, Chelsea posted a tearful video online, painting me as a jealous, vindictive sister trying to destroy her husband's business. Travis's legal team filed an ethics grievance, trying to have me removed from the case over conflict of interest. I'd anticipated it. I'd disclosed my relationship to the court and gotten ethics clearance weeks earlier. The judge dismissed Travis's grievance on the spot and, annoyed by the stalling tactic, ordered immediate depositions. I deposed Travis first, walking him through emails proving he'd backdated a structural hazard report to bypass the preservation committee before an inspector had even seen the property. Then I deposed my own father, forcing him to read aloud, under oath, the name of the trust he'd drained and confirm he'd never had my authorization, because I was a legal adult when he emptied it. He just confessed to felony wire fraud on the record. Days later, at the city's biggest charity gala, my father paraded me in front of nervous investors as proof his empire was stable, lying about our minor family disagreement. Chelsea looped her arm through mine for a photo and hissed at me to behave. When the scheduled speaker had a medical emergency, the coordinator begged me to fill in. I took the stage and, without naming names, laid out exactly how predatory developers fabricate violations, hide behind shell companies, and drain family trusts to fund their schemes, then announced that the injunction against the French Quarter project had just been upheld and expanded, freezing all related assets indefinitely. I raised a glass to the people who build tables instead of stealing from them. I walked off to stunned silence and the sound of Travis's phone ringing off the hook as his investors pulled out in real time. Within 48 hours, Travis's cars were repossessed, his crews walked off half-built sites, and his marriage to Chelsea collapsed the moment the money did. Federal investigators seized on the deposition, tracing the wire fraud straight to my father's accounts. Agents raided his office. His board forced his resignation. The country club revoked my parents' membership. Chelsea moved back into her childhood bedroom with nothing. A week after the raid, my mother called, sobbing, begging me to represent my father against federal charges and to bail out their house from foreclosure. I invited them to my office. They arrived looking like hollow versions of themselves. Chelsea offered a hollow, self-serving apology, Sorry only because the money had run out. My mother, out of options, asked me to write a check, framing it as family duty. I pulled the same faded printout of my old bar exam results from my desk drawer and set it in front of her. The same milestone she'd dismissed for cabinet paint 2 years earlier. You chose your priorities that day, I told her. Now I'm choosing mine. I declined to represent my father, declined to fund their rescue, and told them we were no longer family. No calls, no visits. This isn't vengeance, I said. It's protection. It's where my life begins and your damage ends. They left without another word. The Thanksgiving, instead of the rigid, transactional dinners of my childhood, I went to the Rusty Pelican, closed for the night and packed with the people who actually mattered. Remy cooking a full holiday spread, Evelyn pouring wine, the bakery owners and jazz club proprietors I'd helped save. Remy raised a glass to the best damn lawyer in the parish, and the room erupted. It didn't feel like validation earned by shrinking myself. It felt like a table built specifically for me. 6 months later, Travis was serving 10 years for wire fraud. My parents, stripped of their wealth and status, downsized into a small apartment on the edge of town. Chelsea worked retail. I didn't feel triumphant watching it unfold, just quiet, steady peace. Landry and Henry expanded to a second office in Baton Rouge. The only personal item on my desk was a candid photo from that Thanksgiving, imperfect lighting, messy hair, real love. If you're listening to this because you know exactly what it feels like to sit at a table with people who share your blood but not your values, stop waiting for them to finally see you. Their inability to value you was never a measure of your worth. You don't need their permission to build something of your own. If they won't make room for you at their table, don't beg for a seat. Go find the timber and the nails and build your own, then surround it with people who actually show up. I'm Clara Henry. I was the daughter they called a bad investment. Now I run the firm that carries my name, and I've never felt more at peace.